Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. A special thank you to the men and women in uniform who are here today. It's hot out here. I'll keep my remarks as brief as possible. But thank you for being here. I'm so happy that the state recognizes that the violent crime in St. Louis is at a crisis point. I'll say it again. We don't have a crime problem. We have a crime crisis. I welcome any and all new resources to reduce the senseless acts of violence that are all too common here in our city. Violent crime is not just a problem for the police, though. It's everyone's problem, all of ours. That's why right here in city government, we've begun implementing an unprecedented level of cooperation and collaboration among the police, the Circuit Attorney's Office, St. Louis Public Schools, probation and parole, and our social service agency, because violent crime is everyone's problem. We know that there's nothing new about directing resources strictly to law enforcement. What is new is directing those resources to our city departments as well. No one's born a criminal. Deep generational poverty, poor education options, unemployment, underemployment, all contribute to violent crime. You add into that easy access to guns, low wages, and poor health care outcomes, and the result is a 911 call. I welcome the Highway Patrol's help on our interstates. There's way too much speed, way too many guns, and way too much drugs on our highways. You all listen to the news. There's been a lot of gunfire, a number of shootings on our highways over the last year or so. Years ago, the Highway Patrol stopped patrolling the highways in the city of St. Louis. I don't really know why that is. No one seems to remember back that far. But we really don't care what the reason is. In the first week of my administration, I spoke with the governor's office about how to have help from the Highway Patrol. Quite honestly, it was the governor's office who brought up the topic. After all, St. Louisans are all state taxpayers too. The problems we have with crime are not going to be solved overnight. We didn't get here overnight. It'll take focused, committed action from all corners of our city and our region and our state to make an impact. I'm glad to say today that the state has taken a seat at the table in a very major way. Thank you to the state, thank you to the governor for being here with us today. Thank you to all of you who are here today in order to put out the word here. Thank you especially to the men and women in uniform here. And if I could just take one point of personal privilege, it's hot out here. Check on your neighbors, check on the people who may not have air conditioning or who may not be running their air conditioner. It's really important that they do that. Heat can kill, so check on your neighbors. It's now my honor to introduce Ann Precythe, who's the state's Director of Corrections. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor. As a member of the Governor's Cabinet, I'm honored to stand here along with my fellow Cabinet members as together we represent one of the Governor's most important initiatives, and that's collaboration. The most important initiatives require joint effort not only between state and local officials, but also across department lines. I stand here today with my fellow Cabinet members from Department of Mental Health, Department of Health and Senior Services, Department of Social Services, and also from DPS. Together, we support each other and we support every community across the state. So we're proud to be a part of this initiative as well. Thank you.
Today, it's my honor and a privilege to introduce to you the governor of our great state of Missouri. I have had the opportunity to meet Governor Greitens a few months ago when there was a meeting of pastors in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, where a friend of mine, Bishop Ronnie Webb, is the pastor. The words he spoke then, he spoke with passion, with great conviction, and a commitment to make a change in our state. And a few weeks ago, we had a chance to meet the governor in the governor's mansion with other faith-based leaders, with other law officials about the fact that for us to have a safer state and a safer city of St. Louis, with a program called Bridge the Gap. Therefore, at this time, it is my honor to introduce to you the governor of our state, the Honorable Governor Eric Greitens.
Thank you. So guys, this past Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. in the city of St. Louis, a man was driving home from the local store. There were other passengers in the car with him, and all of them heard what sounded to them like fireworks. They didn't know what had happened until they saw the man slump over the steering wheel. He'd been shot in the head. And he wasn't the only one. This past weekend, 5 people were gunned down in the city of St. Louis. There were 10 shootings in the course of 48 hours. Now, this is what happened just over the weekend. This is what happened just over the weekend. But it's been going on for as long as many of us can remember. It's gone on so long, in fact, that too often these just sound like mind-numbing statistics. They sound like numbers and noise. We hear the news of the latest robbery or shooting, and we just change the channel or turn down the radio. What should sicken us too often barely registers. And violence that is extreme is too often considered routine. And violence like this doesn't just happen in one neighborhood or one corner of St. Louis. It affects all of us. It's affected my family. You know, a few months ago, my wife Sheena was robbed at gunpoint. Now, we were lucky. No one was hurt. What we experienced, though, was nothing compared to children who grow up with crime as a common part of their lives and their days. We've had too many neighborhoods where good people have to go inside before the sun sets because it's too dangerous when the sun goes down. What crime does is crime tears communities apart. Neighbors fear to help each other, and businesses have to close early. Now, people from out of town, some of them are afraid to move to this city. Now, people from the neighborhood are oftentimes afraid to come down to enjoy a meal or even to enjoy a ball game. Now, for too long, people have talked about this problem. And then they talked, and they talked, and they talked, and they talked. Well, you know what? The time for talk is over. Today we've come together to take action. And that's exactly what we're going to do. That's what we're going to have to do. The choice before us is clear. The choice before us is clear. We can accept things as they are, or we can resolve together to take action. And today we're coming together to take action. And it's not just those who've lost their lives to gunfire. It's also people who've had to deal with trauma. Too many people in the state of Missouri have been shouted down. Too many people in the state of Missouri have not had their voices heard. Too many people in a time of political discord have not been heard. You know, there are teachers who have to explain to her class why there's another empty seat in the classroom. It's the grandmother who has to explain to her grandson why he has to sleep in the bathtub at night, right? It's the pastor who has to find the right words to speak at another child's funeral. And for too long, those voices have been ignored and abandoned and shouted down. But today, we are here to declare that the days of ignoring this problem are done. We are rolling up our sleeves to take strong action to support people. Now, we are bringing together unprecedented state, federal, and city resources to create peace in our communities. A special operations unit of the Missouri State Highway Patrol began working last night, and they will continue to assist local law enforcement to suppress violent crime on our highways. Now, I was riding with these men and women. Every one of them volunteered. And in their first night alone, they had dozens of felony arrests, drug stops, and took drunk drivers off of the streets. The state of Missouri is also deploying a special team of police officers to find and shut down locations that sell illegal drugs to kids. We're bringing in specialized drug interdiction air assets to track down drug dealers and violent felons. Now, for the first time, the state of Missouri is also going to be joining the FBI and the DEA's Mission Save Task Force. Now, this is a task force which is focused on reducing violent crime by targeting the most violent offenders. It's a model that has reduced violence in major American cities, and we're proud to join our federal and local partners in this effort. Now, all of these steps are important, yet for too long, we've been led to believe that the work of building peace belongs to police and police alone. But this effort needs more than law enforcement. It needs more than law enforcement, and that's why all of our state leaders will be engaged in this mission. You heard from Ann Precythe, the director of our Department of Corrections. We're removing 450 convicted criminals from the street and ensuring that when they re-enter society, it will be in a safe and productive way. When someone comes out of prison, they should have a skill and a path to a job. Our Department of Social Services will begin training local school leaders to recognize the effect on children of abuse at home and violence in their communities. Now, a lot of people, they want to shout and they want to yell about solutions, but what we're doing is we're putting Department of Social Service workers in schools to work with children and to work with communities that are survivors of violence. The Department of Mental Health is going to be working closely with law enforcement to provide tactics, training, and procedures to help us to de-escalate situations and avoid violence whenever possible. The Department of Social Services will also begin working with a coalition of faith leaders to connect members of the clergy with the resources that they need to help their congregations and their communities. And that's why I am so proud to have so many leaders of the clergy who are here today. Reverend Ken McCoy, Reverend Bishop Webb, Bishop Larry Jones. And as all of these clergy leaders will tell you, this has to be a partnership. This has to be a partnership. And that's why this morning we met with leaders of the business community. And it's why this afternoon we're having a dinner organized by Bishop Jones with mothers of children who are victims of violence. Why do we do this? Because everybody has a role to play. Because we need to hear the perspective of law enforcement, and we also need to hear the perspective of a mom who's lost a child to violence. Because we need the perspective of clergy, and we also need the perspective of our business community. We need our charities, and we need our leaders in government. What we are doing is bringing people together to solve this problem. Now, the problems that have developed over the course of decades aren't going to be fixed in one summer, but they can be fixed. They can be fixed. Other cities have done this. Now, part of the problem in the city of St. Louis is that people have come to believe that nothing can be done. People have come to believe that nothing can be done in the city of St. Louis, but the fact is, in other cities, they have solved this problem. Now, the people that are with me today, the people who are here, we are committed to positive action. We are committed to working together to create safer streets for people across the state of Missouri. The only thing that is unacceptable to us are excuses and inaction. It's unacceptable to us to stand by and let another child get shot. It's unacceptable to us to let another family be terrorized. And it's unacceptable to us to continue to simply accept the way things have always been. And I'd ask all of you, parents and children, clergy and congregants, law enforcement and business leaders, to work with us, because together we can do better. Together we can save lives. So let's get to work. Thank you, and God bless you.